out fast. And that time is of essence, and already my colleague has mentioned, since fast reaction in general reduces the overall costs. So that's one main advantage. And the second advantage is you also find fast payout pre-arranged emergency loans, such as the World Bank CAT DDOs, but these lead to further indebtedness, and therefore are potential higher capital costs in the future. With the experience we have gained in designing innovative climate risk financing solutions, we believe that we can meaningfully contribute to enhancing ever more important fiscal reliances of our partner countries.
Thank you very much, Christian. And it's impressive how you underlined that KfW learned the lesson of the value of insurance and now are a huge provider. Like I asked others, you are very committed. We understood that, and that is really great. So what comes next from your perspective?
Yes, one key vehicle will, of course, continue to be the Insure Resilience Global Partnership. Another important lever for KfW to drive innovation is to mainstream climate risk management and financing into our portfolio. Within KfW's climate mainstreaming approach, we screen every project. We screen our investments for climate risk, and in order to aim to mitigate these as much as possible and economically sensible. This also includes managing residual risks. After piloting the shock resilient loans successfully with BOAD, we could also envisage rolling them out as a KfW standard product. And last but not least, let me state that resilience, especially economic resilience, will be one of the key topics in KfW's work in 2021.
Excellent, Christian. And you already gave me one expression that links very nicely to our next panelist. But before doing that, I would like to ask the audience here in Glasgow to give a round of applause for Christian and Hector, because I forgot to ask you for that before. Kindly excuse it, Hector. It's this virtual setting that brings it more directly to my attention with the people in the room, but kindly excuse that I forgot it before after talking with you and the valuable insights, Hector, that you also provided. So thank you to the two of you. And now we come to the already mentioned cooperation with BOAD and the shock resilience loans as a key element. So a warm welcome from all of us to Komlanvi Moglo, who is also present here. Yeah, you can choose and go to the mic or to my side.
Let me stay here.
And then please, Leslie, give. Oh, you have a mic.
I have one, just like you.
You didn't have to take off your earring, though. That was. But excellent. So no mic necessary.
Yeah.
So I mentioned BOAD several times. Colleague mentioned BOAD several times.
True.
You are senior climate change expert at BOAD. And can you give us more details on the partnership with KfW on this apparently very innovative instrument of the shock resilient loans?
Right. Basically, the relationship with KfW has been in existence since 1981. So over 40 years experience where partnership were, done in between BOAD and KfW. There have been several programs, several projects that have been done, and successfully, I must say. And today, we are about to sort of launch this PACAN product, which is, again in French, préadapté aux catastrophes naturelles, shock resilience loans. That will be attached to the normal loans that countries, the Wyoming countries, are getting out of BOAD. So talking about Wyoming countries, that's the 8 French-speaking countries, namely, and then they, whilst applying for a loan at BOAD, they get this product, this innovative product, which is very, very, very important to BOAD at this stage, considering the natural disasters that we are facing within the West African region.
Yeah, and I believe you from the spot, but please help me out by explaining also how does it work in concrete terms and why is it attractive for the countries in the region?
Right. So I did prepare some slides. I don't know if this is time
I'm sure.
to launch it. So the slides right behind you. I began by
Can
initially.
you see them, or I can?
Yeah, I can
you
see
it's
it.
okay?
That's fine. Next slide, please. This is briefly, tells you about BOAD and the countries that we cover. He also explicitly tells you we were founded from 1973, started operating in 1976. We have 4 windows, literally, for financing. The first one being a non-concessional one, second one being a concessional one, a third one being on the energy one, and then the fourth one being the climate finance BOAD, which is, again, possible via our accreditation with the Green Climate Fund, the Adaptation Fund, and then the GEF. So our notation has been very stable from the onset till this date. So next slide. How do we approach this, and how do we think, and why do you think that this product is going to be very innovative and very interesting to countries that we cover? Is that from the onset we analyzed our greenhouse gas emissions on every project that we're going to finance, and then we defined the climate vulnerability on each project that we finance. Based on that, we define a strategy, allowing us with the PACAN to have sort of a payout ready just in case there is a natural disaster that's coming in. So there is plan adaptation and there's plan attenuation product, whilst the response and investments kicks in to cover the countries, basically. So how does the cover works? Basically brings in either a part waiver or extends their grace periods that they already have within at BOAD, with the loan or the grants that they have at with BOAD, and then from there we ensure that the management of present climate risk are also taken into considerations, whilst the loan covers them for the future natural disasters that are coming in.
And that is very crucial. I totally get that. Yeah.
Yes, quite crucial for us now, considering that emissions-wise, true, we are only 2% or less on the African stage. However, we face a lot of impact, especially in the agricultural sector, considering that most of the activities within the West African region really covers, are more centered into agriculture, and it is very innovative for the countries that we are going to cover, and then they find it very interesting. So I think this is a good product that's going to be useful, that's going to bring interest, that's going to cover them for natural disasters that they were not perhaps prepared for in the long run. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned being here in Glasgow, COP26, an aspect that is at the heart of the climate negotiations and the whole process.
Yes.
The difference between African countries in West Africa causing emissions or not causing them, and on the other hand facing the consequences of climate change, and how we find ways, insurance being one of them, but not the only way to really address the vulnerability, and also the question of climate justice that is linked to this. Yeah. You didn't say it, I said it. So you don't have to be afraid.
All right, it's a fair analysis of the situation, to be honest with you. We are really counting on the product to sort of provide this, a part solution whenever shocks comes in and a disasters comes in. So we are quite keen and very interested in having this and evaluating it later and seeing the impact being a positive one on countries and productions and farmers, and seeing them being happy and that is the most important thing for us. We finance development, so that is our motto, basically.
Of course, it's important what then happens at the ground, in the village,
Exactly.
for the farmer
Exactly.
or the small businesses.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I mean, Christian was talking about, or you were mentioning also evaluation. Christian was mentioning as one option to roll out the shock resilient loans. What would that then mean for the financial sector, given the developments that we all know about or fear in the future?
Yeah. For the finance sector, it's a quite interesting product for us, considering the fact that not only is considered an insurance package, so the the financiers, if I may say so, are much more relaxed, in giving out, their loans, considering that there's an insurance package that covers them in case, these countries are not able to meet up with their payment. So it comes in and provides them with a grace period. It comes in and provides them with a partial waiver of their loan. So for the financial sector, we feel and we think that it's quite relevant to the success, implementation of, SDGs and the projects that we finance within the Wyoming region. So again, coming from a development sector, development bank, profit is not necessarily what we are looking for, but rather the impact, on people's life, and then the implementation of SDGs and the Paris Agreement being something that is really must be seen within those projects that we finance.
And this instrument could have this stabilizing factor and even more create these kind of development impacts.
Of course, we strongly believe in that, which is even why we went for the idea and we want to implement this. We believe that it's going to create much more interest again, from countries, from other countries, and this is something that can be replicated again along the line.
It's really encouraging. Thank you so much, Komlanvi, and please, I ask the audience again to applaud also our fourth panelist. I think we learned a lot and very inspiring and encouraging in the face of the climate change impacts that we all see, encouraging examples of what we can do jointly. Yeah. Because I think we are talking all about action, of course action for mitigation, but we need also to better understand what are our options, yeah, to deal with what we are facing and have a positive outlook on the options for change, adaptation and resilience. Ibrahima, like you asked us also to incorporate, and rightly so. I look at the audience here. I'm not sure if we have slide or anything. And we have a couple of minutes. I would have a last question to all four of the panelists, but are there questions in our audience that want to come forward?
And maybe if I may just quickly make a comment while we wait for questions from the audience. I think from the session we have seen how all the various actors work collaboratively in the development of solutions. So then for me the key points to emphasize is that what we have discussed are not products that exist in isolation from each other. They are all part of really a comprehensive national disaster risk management strategy, where sometimes the most appropriate instrument is a loan, sometimes it can be an insurance product, and this is what at ARC we do in terms of the working with countries to understand their risk and develop a comprehensive national disaster risk management strategy, so that it's quite clear where all the various products fit in terms of responding to natural disasters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. A very important point, mentioning that it's not competition between the instruments at all, and it's not all we need. It's a range of options, and we need all of them, and I would say we need even more of them. without being just a patchwork confusion, but really a comprehensive set of options that maybe even starts before the different insurance and loan options that were discussed today, and some that start afterwards as well. So we have already a range of options and we need even more. Yeah. But Peter. Oh, sorry, yeah. We have
Thank
to
you very
improvise.
much, Heike. Yeah, and out of curiosity, maybe it's a question to Leslie and probably to Hector. We all know from personal experience, if you take out insurance, you end up disputing the insurance, or they're disputing the claim. So I wonder, do you have any mechanisms, a dispute settlement mechanism or something which kicks in if, say, in your case, ARC, there is a disaster happening, and then you have to say, due to whatever reason, no, we can't pay out, and the country says, no, you have to. So what happens? And Hector probably has an answer to that too.
And I can explain to the audience, these kind of things happen every second in Germany. So I can very much understand where the question of Peter is coming from.
Yes, and thank you very much for that question. And actually, for us, when we have parametric insurance, there is an added complexity that the payment of the claim is based on the modeled loss and not the actual loss. So when you use parametric insurance, the fact that you are paying based on a modeled loss is what allows you to pay very quickly, but is also what can cause disagreements with a client where there is what we call basis risk, where what the model is saying is a bit different from what is happening on the ground. And the way we counteract that is, firstly, we have really a robust engagement with the client, where we take the client through how the model works, so that they also have an appreciation of that. And we find that this engagement process is critical to avoid precisely what you say. Secondly, it's about transparency and proactive communication, so that we are able to demonstrate to the clients what exactly is happening, and communicate with them proactively, so that they are able to know at each stage of the process, where we are. And then the third point, which is extremely important for us, is just a feedback mechanism. So at the end of each insurance cycle, we compare the actual results versus the modeled results, and then we incorporate this in the next round, so that we are also continuously learning and becoming better, so that we're able to close the gap. But as you say, this does sometimes happen, and we find that if you follow really the three things that I've outlined, it helps manage the relationships with the clients. Maybe Hector might want to come in as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll add just, you covered a lot the importance of the education that goes before you do the transaction and all the disclosures. I think that is an important element. I think to the question was, what are the real mechanisms? From a legal perspective, usually you have dispute resolution mechanisms in the contracts or arbitrage. You can even go to court, but I think when possible, there is also this element of good faith clauses that you can include in the contracts, where you recognize that there could be failure in the mechanism that you have defined as a basis for you to define if there's a payment or not. So you try to address that by having secondary sources, tertiary sources, but you understand that there are problems. So in the past, I have seen, we personally had a controversial claim last year in a RIF program, and about what the data is exactly, a borderline, and it's, as an industry, we need to have common sense about how do we approach these problems, and we give confidence to the client that you have the judgment to make them. But yeah, you can easily go to the extreme and say, oh, I don't, this doesn't comply with the contract. So we need to have a mature engagement of players and responsible to understand that parametric has a lot of strengths and that we're moving, as Leslie said, like this is an instrument that can adjust very fast, it's very flexible. But we're relying on third-party data. We're always relying on imponderables. So we need to try to develop a mature practice of how we interpret contracts, how we solve resolution. That's what gets the confidence between client and the risk provider.
Thank you also, Hector. And I think what I took from both of you, that also transparency towards the client and communication and consistency in both of those aspects is also important to address, I think, Peter's question. I look around and I don't see another question by the audience. That would give me the chance to fire away my last question to the four of you. Okay, we are still at Glasgow and only it's day 3 or 4 of the negotiations. But I think ahead already to COP27, as it is or will be also in Africa. And today our focus was fiscal resilience in the face of climate risks and disasters, and the African perspective, especially Western Africa. Yeah. So, looking forward 1 year, gentlemen, what is your vision? Where would you want us or your institutions to be at the end of 2020? Maybe we start with Christian.
In 2022?
2022, what did I say?
2020.
Oh, sorry. Too many clues. No, not going back, going forward. So, end of next year, 2022.
It's all right.
It is the German presidency in G7, and we will be very busy. So I think somehow I will forget this this year and move forward. 2022, Christian, over to you.
Thank you. So I got a bit nervous. So first of all, I thought you want to talk to me about the past. So
yeah, my mistake.
So 2022 is much better. So I'm a banker, you know, and what KfW is doing, KfW is mainly providing loans to countries, to states. And by doing so, we're in a process of assessing the risk of our loans. And therefore, there's a strong relationship between financial indebtedness and our activities. So my wish would be that the fiscal resilience is even more into the mind of everyone, politicians, partners, bankers, institutions, in order to have strong states with strong financial and solid background that brings us in a position to provide more loans than ever. Quite a banker's answer, but please allow me to...
Talking about business opportunities. But I would like to ask now Komlanvi, who had not before gave a business answer, but said development impacts are at the forefront of your priorities. Yes. But looking ahead to 2022.
Yes. Well, for us, again, unfortunately, for the past 2 years, we've seen COVID come in and disrupt, economies, especially in Africa, where little trades, are much more important and contributors to the economy, national economies of countries. Today, we are seeing a shift where, COVID is slightly going away and economies are picking up. And projects are coming in now at the bank where, in diverse sector, maybe in the health sector, maybe in the agricultural sector, maybe in the infrastructural sector, we are seeing a pickup of activities coming in. However, we as a development bank want to provide sustainable loans, but that are attached to our insurance product, being PACAN, to ensure that, to ensure their sustainability in the long run, to ensure that whenever natural disasters, which are unavoidable at this stage, and that can come at any time, that those loans or those loans that are being gotten from the bank are covered, and are sort of covered in such a way that countries do not really feel, the impact when natural disasters come in. Their loans will be protected. Their loans will be, gracefully, give them a period of grace, and then they will be partially waived as well, allowing them to have some sort of extra funding, allowing them to respond to immediate, crises, allowing them to sort of continue their development activities that they are doing. So 2022, more loans for us, but protected loans and concessional loans and more development is what we are looking for. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hope that we get that. So,
fingers crossed.
Hector, what is your perspective? What will we bring on fiscal resilience to the African COP in 2022?
I'm hoping, actually, it's going to sound weird, but I'm hoping we don't need to talk about insurance, and I will try to explain why. I'm hoping that we're talking about how people are using insurance in helping the institutions that are on the ground to achieve resilience, and we're talking about how they were able to use these instruments to have more capital efficiency, how intermediaries can develop products like BOAD or KfW, how emergency organizations are able to deploy capital faster. I hope we can talk also about how science is allowing us to break the frontier of the anticipatory finance and go to the forecasting part. I just want to see that we as insurance, we are like the oil that helps the financial engineering, the contingent capital to flow to these countries. And eventually, if they don't talk about us as risk providers, as insurance, it's a good sign because it means there is a community of people that are using the instruments.
I couldn't agree more. I'm not sure that we are getting there, but very, very expertly phrased. And I go with this wish as well. So many already inspiring visions for end of next year. So now, Leslie, what is your take?
So I think when I take a step back and I look at it, ARC has been proven to be a very successful concept. And what we really need to do now is to scale so that we have more people within Africa that are covered by insurance. Currently, ARC covers around 30 million people per year. But when you look at the need, it's close to 700 million people whose economic activities and livelihoods are exposed to extreme weather. Yeah. So what we would like to do is to cover more people. And our plan to cover more people is really threefold. The first one is by expanding our product range, as I've already said. So next year, we will have launched our flood insurance product. The second aspect of it is what we talked about in the beginning of the session, providing greater premium subsidies to allow more countries to be able to take up insurance in a multi-year format, because this is a game changer for us. And the third would be on the micro insurance concept. Again, there are a lot of pilots that are being run within Africa, and those need to be significantly scaled up. With this approach, we will have much more people with access to insurance coverage, and maybe we'll be closer to achieving what Hector has outlined, where a disaster happens, the financing mechanism is already in place. There is no distress, and life can move on much more smoothly.
Oh, colleagues, you described a vision that, at least given the circumstances as it is now, that we cannot change while we all engage to achieve 1.5 degrees, that would be one where we prepare especially all the vulnerable groups, the vulnerable countries, to in a very normal way, immediately, without anxious worrying if any instrument could come in and help countries, communities, or people, that we have this comprehensive and rolled out set of opportunities to all of those who need it. And I'm very inspired by all four of you who are working, at least it seems to me, tirelessly on this vision. And I'm, as a BMZ representative, proud to partner with all of you in this and be part of this endeavor. And I wish all of you, I wish all of us success in this. And please, all people present here offline, a last warm round of applause for all four panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. It was
Thank you
such
once
a
again.
pleasure. And sorry.